All right, YouTube, you probably remember all those ITT tech commercials you used to see. Like late 90s, you saw quite a few of them. Even now, well, not now, but until now, you've seen probably some ITT tech commercials. Oh, enroll now, get your degree, blah, blah, blah. It's a for-profit college, which means, of course, it advertises. It doesn't, rely upon, has its Facebook page, and the government will talk to you about the school like, Public Ivy or something like that. But ITT Tech is no more. They got slammed by the federal government, telling them, oh, you need to pony up like, what was it, 170 something million dollars as a guarantor in case they went out of business to cover like taxpayer funds. I guess the ruckus was they were accepting students that get federal aid, but they're a for-profit college. And so that created a problem in the minds of the government, I guess, because, a private company could never be as effective as central planning that goes on in our public education system for some unknown reason. Now, I'd like to point out all the colleges were for-profit many decades ago, and they were a hell of a lot cheaper. To the point where back in the 1950s, a person with a part-time summer job could cover their entire tuition. It obviously doesn't work that way anymore, and why? Because of the government. You see, the government's policies are what screwed up higher education. For-profit colleges, in the business sense, were never the problem to begin with. If we were using the same basic model that we had in the 50s or the 60s, it would be butt-fuck simple for somebody with a double shift at Wendy's for a couple months to grab up enough money to pay for an entire year of schooling. Meal plan and everything, campus housing, the whole 9 yards. It would be fucking simple for them to do that. But instead it costs many tens of thousands of dollars a year because you've got all of this aid. Now most of that aid has to be paid back. Back then, if you had any intelligence at all and you were attending one of these schools, you'd get a private loan. Now the government has a problem with these things. I don't know why, though. Have you seen the interest rates on the public disbursements of student loans? On people's debt? There was someone in this article is talking about, oh, I'm $10,000 in student loan debt. Oh, goodness, from my bachelor's degree. Yeah, it's actually pretty astonishing that you only have $10,000 in debt. ITT Tech must have been pretty good if that's your only debt burden, considering you were apparently there for 4 years. That's not bad. It's $2,500 a year. That's a manageable debt load, honestly. It's a lot less than what a lot of people have on their credit cards after Christmas. It runs into the many tens of thousands. I think the average load now is 40 grand. 40,000 fucking dollars. You can buy an acre of land and a double wide prefab home for that total. It's quite a lot of money. That would have paid your way through an entire PhD back in the 1970s. Obviously not anymore. Hell, sometimes you're talking about tuition. If it's out of state, you're talking about 35 grand for a single year out of state tuition. In states, usually, about half of the same amount. I will compare here. When I was at UVM, it was an exorbitant cost to attend UVM. Castleton State, which is now a university, cost me almost nothing. It was actually interesting. When I was there, I accrued basically no debt at all. It didn't even need a loan. It was funny because, of course, I wasn't living on campus. I didn't have a meal plan, but even the tuition, like 50%, in-state tuition, it was literally 100% covered. I had no debt from that year. I should have gone to Castleton every year, honestly. My advice to people is you shouldn't get any debt at all. Or if you do, then it should be entirely covered by whatever you can get through work, study, or a part-time job, or something like that. My best advice to anybody who hasn't yet entered the college system, or anybody who's, been attending but you haven't gotten any debt, don't get any. Go learn a trade. Go to a community college. Do something. If you can get in-state tuition and not have any significant total of debt, go for it. Otherwise, don't bother. Not unless you're literally a straight A valedictorian or something like that, and you probably do have, the PhD capability, and you probably do have the Ivy League school that will admit you, and yeah, you probably do end up getting, high-powered internship at Google, and then you get like $100,000 a year salaried position, then go for it. Otherwise, don't bother. Go to a trade school or something, honestly. It's funny to hear the government rant about accountability in higher education in regards to a private school, something like ITT Tech. It's very funny to hear them rant when they are bilking every single college student in the country by basically, once they leave, throwing them to a bunch of loan sharks, which is what these loan companies really are. They put this happy face on it, and they're talking about, oh, ITT Tech's possibly deceptive practices. Oh, you mean like when people go into public education buildings, that is our high schools and middle schools and so forth, and rant and rave to students about how much more money they'll make if they go to one of your public schools for college and get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or whatever. And then for a lot of them, for most of them in fact, in our generation, it never happened because the jobs weren't there. Is that a deceptive practice? What about telling them, oh, no, just don't worry about these student loans. Some of them are subsidized. Here's $1,000 for free every semester, and here's a Pell Grant. Just don't worry about that $6,000 a semester in pure debt that you're accruing that's not subsidized. It's going to be compounded at like 7-8% interest. Don't worry about any of that stuff. You'll be fine because, of course, you're really smart. You can go to our college and you'll get rich. You know why the colleges do that? Because when they look at the students, they see dollar signs. They're getting all sorts of free federal money. A lot more, by the way, than it costs to actually educate them. You think that goes to the professors? No. You think it goes to the little poop butt administrators? Yeah, a little bit, trickle down economics, I guess, in the public education system, as it were. No, it goes towards building the next stadium, paying the coach, paying the dean, things like that. Those are the people that are making a 7-figure salary. They are. We have the wife of the former dean of UVM, I remember not long after I left. I think she was at some fucking drunken party and was trying to pick up college students and trying to have an affair with them. Drunk off of her ass, fucking witch. These are the sort of people that run the public education system, and we're falling behind all the other countries, and we pay more than all the other countries. It's phenomenal that people haven't figured out that this problem is pervasive in the government. It's not the private school's fault. If somebody wants to go to a private school, like corporate school, if that school isn't threatening them or outright conning them, I don't see why the government should be involved at all. And those private schools would cost a lot less too if the government weren't throwing free funny money at all the public institutions that it feeds federal grants up the eyeballs on the backs of the taxpayers, and then the students get fucked anyway. They're not the ones getting the benefit. It's not like they're paying, oh yeah, I paid $12 last year to go to college. It was great. I'm learning about molecular biology. That's just not what happens. The students are still getting screwed. 90% of those kids are getting fucked. The other 10% don't worry because they're a bunch of trust funders, or they're relatives of high-powered alumni or politicians or something like that, or they're independently wealthy. Oh yeah, I invented this. I got $1 million, so I don't really have to worry about student loans or something like that. It's funny to see the government is shuttering all of these ITT Tech locations. I think it's 40,000 students getting fucked. And then they put on their happy face again, the same happy face that they use when they waltz into your child's high school and tell them, oh, don't worry about these loans, go to college, otherwise you're a fucking dumbass, which is basically what they say to them, which couldn't be further from the truth. I've met people that dropped out of fucking high school that were smarter and could write better, especially, than some of the edited works that I saw in college when I was at like UVM, having to review your peers' work. Oh my God. I'm editing things for a living. For $1,000, I wouldn't go back and spend even 1 hour doing that because it's just torment. Half these people can't write a sentence and make it make sense, and then the federal government puts on its happy face and says, oh, don't worry. For these 40,000 students, they might be able to get their debt forgiven. Oh, unless they transfer their credits, then they're fucked. So you're saying the debt is fine. There's nothing specifically wrong with that privately racked up debt, as long as they're going to continue to owe it to some group that the federal government wants them to owe it to. Otherwise, they can just say, oh yeah, I want debt forgiveness. Fuck the fact that I went to college. Maybe wasted 2-3 years of their lives. I mean, it's retarded. See the government go after a private institution for the grave sin of taking federal loan money, when it appears from what I'm reading here, it looks like it was a hell of a lot cheaper than some of these public edifices that take the same money, but they have the blessing of the government, so it's okay. They conform to all the bureaucratic rules and regulations and don't advertise, except for they'll send a recruiter again to some high school to tell little Jimmy, who he's a straight C student, but little Jimmy is told, don't worry about that 10 grand a year that you're racking up in debt. It doesn't matter because, you're going to be the next Bill Gates or something if you study here because you're just so smart and so wonderful. Meanwhile, they're rubbing their money-grubbing hands together because they're still in it for their own private profit. You can take the private profit out in name, but you can't take it out in game. The people that work in the public education system are still in it for their own paychecks. The dean's in it for his paycheck, the janitors are in it for their paycheck, the professors, everybody else. The people who make the food, the people who clean the laundry, everybody is in it for, they want money because that's what makes the country go round. So the fact that you call it a public institution, say, oh, well, it conforms to standard A, B, and C, doesn't mean that it's not overpriced. It doesn't mean it's not corrupt. It doesn't mean that it's not run by idiots, because it is. Meanwhile, you get ITT Tech. I don't know a significant enough amount about their reputation to say, oh, well, yeah, they're a bunch of loan sharks or not. Do you know who collects that debt? Who ends up collecting the debt? Some third-party company. Here in Vermont, it used to be VSAC. We used to have the Vermont Student Assistance Corporation. Now VSAC doesn't handle that. Thanks, Obama. No, literally, by the way, it was Obama who put that in. Soon as he got in, oh, yeah, all these companies, they can't handle it. Can't stay in state. Now it's serviced by some retard company in Michigan. Some goofy front in Michigan now holds that debt. It's not even kept in state. He probably did that. So that the larger student loan servicers in some urban Midwestern areas with a special low tax rate because of cronyism get to absorb all that wonderful money and pay their employees more to siphon it out of the rest of us. It's the way that the DC does business. So ITT Tech is gone, and all those tens of thousands of students and thousands of faculty members are screwed. Do you think those students won't run half the time into a brick wall trying to get their money back? Of course they will. You try talking to the federal government and getting a penny out of them. Unless you happen to be a political donor. Then you can get a little tit for tat. No, half of these students, they're not going to see a penny back. And those that do, it'll be so complicated. It'll take them weeks or months. Non-stop paperwork and phone calls and text messages and emails. It'll be torment. The faculty members get stiffed. They're screwed. The people who run the company, though, do you think, for a second, if they really were a screwy corporate entity that was bilking students, offering worthless degrees for high prices, which doesn't appear to be the case, but let's assume it was, do you think the people at the top will be the ones that get fucked? No, the students and the faculty members, the little professors and janitors, they'll be the ones that suffer. Not the CEO, not the people at the board meetings, not the people who wear the $1,000 suits when they show up on campus. They're not going to pay a cent. They might have to go to a few court cases. Ultimately, they'll just pass the buck over and over and over again, and you watch. What'll happen? Federal government will bail them out. They'll bail out the problem, and then they'll put some strictures on private for-profit colleges yet again, as though it wasn't the government's involvement that fucked the system up in the first place. I would much rather go back 50 years to when, for the price of your hippie van that runs on vegetable oil, you could get a 4-year degree. It'd be much, much easier. So much better. It's no wonder that that's looked back at with a hint of nostalgia. Despite the civil rights movement going on, and war, and oh, will the commies nuke us, just looks so squeaky clean and happy back in the 50s or in the early 60s, like JFK or Ike era. So much better than it is today. You don't even have to have lived through it to see that it was better, and that we are on the wrong track, that we have been for decades. And then people want to blame us, the millennials. They're lazy. They're still living at home. What the fuck else are we supposed to do? DC destroyed the job market. DC made it impossible to fund a halfway decent education without tens of thousands in student debt. What the hell are we supposed to do? The only other option is form a bunch of communes where a bunch of half-out-of-work college students and former college students with a lot of debt end up, 20 people to a room so that they don't have to turn the heat on as often. Do you want them to become a bunch of fucking commies? Well, then you made the problem. Why not fix it? Instead of going after ITT Tech, why not stop pretending that the problem is in for-profit colleges and just let them exist on their own? Someone gets built, they get fucking built. Fuck them. Instead of fucking everybody else in the population and work on fixing the problems with public education, because there wouldn't even be for-profit colleges if the public education system were decent. Because supposedly they have all this aid and they have all these wonderful things, and really what they get is an awful lot of debt. That's about all. Peace out.